Today's video is sponsored by PicDrop, the fast and easy way to share your photographs with clients or with family and friends. Be sure to click on the link in the description box below for your free trial. How's it? When I look back at the photographs that I used to take, I am so pleased, especially with the portrait photography, that I stopped shooting this way. Back in, must have been around about 2010, somewhere there, I had been back in the UK for 2 years or so. I'd mostly been doing wedding photography. It was pretty middle of the line kind of stuff, nothing too amazing. I'd recently bought some new flash heads and I'd gotten a gig taking photographs at a local spa, doing makeover pictures. So I would go there and I would do like a little portrait session in the studio, or in their one part of a studio at the clinic. It was actually a lovely room. It had lots of natural lights, beautiful, but I went in with my lights. I had a big octabox and I had some, honeycombs and all sorts of things. And when I look at these images, they feel overlit. Okay, so that's a word that I tend to use when I'm looking at photography. It feels like there's too much light, like somebody's put too many lights, studio lights, strobes, whatever you want to call them, into an image. They don't feel natural. They feel somewhat forced. And it was around about this time that I came across a photographer in the wedding industry called Elizabeth Messina. Now, you may not be familiar with her. I think, she's one of those kind of photographers in certain areas is reasonably well known. And once you get out of that area, they become less well known. But be that as it may, I saw her photographs and I was like, wow, these look really nice. I felt that they were they're light, they were airy. At the time, a lot of my work felt like it was not heavy visually, but like it was like a big meal that you ate and it just kind of sat in my stomach. I was longing for something that just felt a little bit airy. Maybe it was the weather here in the UK. It was just grey and dreary and whatever. I wanted to escape that. Elizabeth Messina, she photographs in Southern California and all this kind of light, all this sort of light that everybody goes, oh, I wish I could have SoCal light. But be that as it may, I looked at her images and I was like, oh, these are really pretty. And there's a reason why I kind of thought that. And it's primarily the light. The light is very different to a studio light. It's natural light. It's light that wraps around. It has a glow to it. The word that Elizabeth uses is luminous. And I think that's a fair, sort of comment. And I later on used the word liquid light in my own marketing with these, once I got a handle of what was going on. And that's part of the clue about how my photography evolved. I stopped taking these very overlit, very artificial feeling images and sort of transitioned a little bit into being more natural with my photography. Fortunately for me and everybody else who wanted to get a handle on natural light and how to use it, because even though I'd been a photographer at that point for about 20 odd years, shooting natural light actually felt odd because it wasn't something I'd ever really considered. I just assumed, studio photographers use studio lights. And when you're outside, beyond golden hour kind of light wasn't really a thing. It wasn't the basis of every photograph, which I've subsequently changed my mind about. It is quite literally the basis of every photograph. And you should ask yourself questions about what kind of light you have to work with. And I've flicked this open here to a page, and it says here on the title, you can't read this, but I can read it because I've got my glasses on. It says, "The overcast sky is a softbox. Cloudy days make me a little weak in the knees, not because I miss the sun, but because I can pretty much shoot outside all day long from virtually any angle I want." It's little things like that where I look at the photography, that it does, the light, the natural light has a wraparound quality. It feels like it is just like a big blanket. Right now, today, actually, funnily enough, it's overcast outside. And although it feels nothing like Southern California, the light has that sort of quality about it. So I was looking through these photographs And I was going, oh, the light's really pretty in these. It's so, it just has this kind of feel to it. I found out also that she photographs on film, so there's that kind of feel that comes into her images. They've got that film look because they are showed on film, and a shallow depth of field. I believe that she uses medium format cameras which give you a shallower depth of field. So I thought, okay, I'm going to investigate this. Something about this really intrigues me. I'm going to look at it and try and replicate this photography. Now, it was around about the same time that I was looking to market my wedding photography a bit more. And I was looking, I forget where I saw it, but there was a thing that said, learn the secret or the small change that Sue Bryce made to her website that got her 100 clients in a day or some such sort of thing. So I went, okay, well, I'll go check out this Sue Bryce person. And there was somebody else doing natural light photography, but more portrait orientation. I think I quickly realized that although natural light is amazing, and wherever you are, you can find some pretty cool light. Here in the UK for wedding photography, I was going to struggle a little bit. So it wasn't going to have this kind of wraparound glowy kind of effect. It was a different kind of light that we have here in the UK. But Sue Bryce's work, because it was studio based, I went, oh, hang on, this is something I can actually do. Aside from the fact that at the time I'd been photographing weddings for a while, I was getting also burnt out. So I didn't actually want to do weddings. So I thought, okay, awesome. Got Sue Bryce's work. And not only was it this kind of beautiful wraparound light, she was heavily into telling people how to do it. She was part of this Creative Live crowd. This is slightly before Creative Live became the huge thing that it is today. And you could watch all of Sue's discussions about giant V-flats made out of polystyrene and posing. And none of this was original, right? This is the thing in photography. People talk about Sue Bryce posing and these giant polystyrene V-flats and all that kind of thing. And it's not like Sue invented that. She just popularized it by talking about it. Right, so it's kind of, that's a little bit of divergence. But the thing was, I wanted to open a portrait studio. Here was somebody working in natural light. I went, I can do this. So I followed along and I sort of learnt the ropes and it felt like it was natural. I felt like I actually enjoyed the process far more than using the studio lights and what have you, that all of a sudden it felt like I wasn't fighting with the light anymore. I'd always felt with my photography, certainly with the studio lights, that I'd fallen into that trap that I think a lot of people who are new to photography fall into when it comes to studio lights or strobes, is using too many of them. So by taking them away, by removing the ideas of the modifiers, like having strip lights and a grid or a softbox or reflectors, all that kind of stuff, it allowed me to think more about the process of actually taking the photograph, of making the person look good. I love the quality. And I was lucky enough also when I was looking for a studio, oh look, there's a studio with a giant window that's frosted already. It unfortunately wasn't a Northlight. I think that would have been like the jackpot, but Northlight light is kind of like the coolest light because it's a nice sort of diffused sort of look. It's when windows face north, so there's never any direct sunlight coming through them. It's just all lovely wraparound light. And I was like, okay, resolved. So I went in there, I painted the whole thing white. It was like horrendously bright in there. It was a white floor, white walls, and the roof was white. So the light would come in through this and it would just bounce everywhere. But the upside was, apart from me feeling like I had to wear glasses, sunglasses the whole time in there, is that the light was gorgeous. I had a window I could move people through. So I was learning how to use the light, looking at the images, feeling how it wraps around, using giant reflectors, making shadows, corners for people to go into to get the mood down a little bit. And through that process, I felt that my photography was improving, that I was learning more of an intuitive way of kind of looking at the light. So if I look at people like Elizabeth Messina and Sue Bryce, it feels like they kind of understand what they're doing with the light itself. And that consequently makes the whole thing feel, for me, more painterly. I know that this is not maybe everybody's cup of tea, that maybe some of it's a bit flu-flu, and certainly, it might run contrary to some of the work that I enjoyed as a younger person, that was all kind of edgy and hard and stuff. But I love this idea right now of this softness. So I spent a little while doing that, learning with things. And it was funny because for years, literally years, my studio flash heads sat in their case, not being used, because I didn't need to use them. I just did this natural light thing. And I learnt to make it work for me, even on days when it was like really dark outside, that I found, what, it was enough in there to make these photographs pop. Now, that was like a shift that kind of happened over time with my photography, that I went from being very overlit work, and even though I was kind of like, I don't need my studio flashes, I eventually kind of went, hang on, okay, I do need to extend my working hours, especially during the winter, because as you can imagine, during the winter in the UK, there's not much light. Right, so I had a very small window of opportunity to actually schedule shoots where it was, I think the word would be feasible to use this natural light. So I brought my studio heads out of semi-retirement. They were complaining, and I started off slowly. I reimagined myself, bringing the light. So I did one light at a time. I tried to keep it simple. I didn't have loads of light coming in. I had that 1.4, I think 1.6 octabox just wrapping around, trying to mimic the light that I was used to with the window that was coming in, all that sort of softness. And now I had a better idea about what it was that I was trying to photograph. And so consequently, if I look at the evolution of my studio flash work over that period, it feels more like I'm working in harmony with the images. And I certainly like this. When I look at studio photographers' work, I prefer light that feels less dramatic, as it were. The light in a studio, I've talked about in the workshop that I ran recently about active and passive light. And in the studio, I would always like the light that I have to be passive. That means it's supporting the image. It's not the whole point of the image itself. There are some images where I do like the long exposure and people shaking their heads around and stuff like that, where the light's a little bit more active. But I love a portrait where you don't see the light. It's there caressing the subject, that it's wrapping around. Going back to this idea of Elizabeth Messina, where she says, there's this glowing, luminous light that really just makes photographs have a vibrancy to them. That's a wonderful word, like a vibrant photograph, not lots of bright light, color in your face kind of stuff, but a light that has an organic feel to it. Throughout this time, I've been obviously selling the photographs, and mostly I used in-person viewings, but I still had some weddings where it wasn't really always feasible for people to come to me and have a look. And in those days, to share a gallery of images was pretty convoluted. I didn't want to put them on Facebook because, when you put images on Facebook, that's not really about your images anymore. They technically own them. They can do what they like. That's part of the upload thing. And the same goes for a lot of other places. So I was looking for an option to share private galleries where I'd sort of retain control of my images. And I really wish that in those days I'd had access to today's sponsor Pic Drop, who create these wonderful galleries that are simple to use. You just drag and drop, you make them, and there's no fuss. It's just done. It's easy to share them with clients or with family or friends, for them, they could then also have a look at them. That was, I wish they had been around, right? Because it would have made my life so much easier. One of the great joys about photography, and also as a working photographer, is the ease of which you want to be able to share your images, but at the same time keep control of them. especially when you're talking about wedding photography or commercial work for clients. You want to be able to make a gallery. People can make suggestions. They can talk about them, flag some of them up and say, we like this, we like that, we don't like this one. But at the same time, without any major fuss on your side. And if you are, an amateur, you just want to share images with people, family and friends far away, this is a far easier, far more, simple solution than making private galleries on Facebook or something like that. If you're interested to find out more about PicDrop, what they can offer you, check on the link in the description box below. There is a free trial on offer. Now, there's another photographer I came across who has a similar sort of feel to her images that I couldn't quite put my finger on. Her name is V Spears. And this particular book, the birthday party, is the one I saw. This picture of the girl on the front here is the one I originally saw. And I love it. I love this kind of imagery. And again, it's natural light. It's a diffuse light this time. The light is, I saw when I was doing some research about V a few years ago, that it's like a courtyard in her apartment in Paris, where the light comes down and it's sort of diffuse, and then she has this wall that she then places the kids against. And apart from the styling, the images have, I would say, kind of a weird sort of haunting quality that I really like about them. Because the styling is spot on. Whoever has done, I just believe it's a friend of hers, goes and sources all these outfits and costumes. It is really cool. But the other thing I love about her work, and I don't often talk about processing and how people achieved certain images, but these, I believe, are photographed, and I stand to be corrected on this, so don't take it as gospel. I believe they're photographed on Polaroid black and white instant film, and are then digitally colored. So like what would have been hand coloration back in the day. And that gives you this kind of odd color feel to it. I think there's a real interesting aspect to it. But again, this would be very tricky to do with studio lighting, right? You'd need like big scrims and diffusion and stuff like that to give that very soft, even light. So the fact that, we got 3 photographers here who all came across my field of vision, as it were, around about the same time, that I kind of went, bang. I can see now why I stopped photographing in that very overcooked, overlit sort of way that didn't feel comfortable, that felt like I had to work within a constraint of the light that I'd put up and felt like I was always fighting with. And so I sort of moved away from that, went back to the basics, went back to learning to use what we have available to us, no matter whether you're outside or indoors. And that just, it liberated my photography so much. I was really happy about that. I felt so much lighter. I was kind of, wait, this is pretty cool. And then later on, when I brought in the Studio Flash back into it, I knew more about what I was doing with light. It felt like light was now my friend. V Spears is fantastic. If you'd like to see more of her work and check out these amazing images, then click on this video over here. Thank you once again, and a thank you to PicDrop for sponsoring this month's videos, and I will see you again soon.